and
Hello.
welcome to the live Cybersecurity Awareness Forum, the best part of your security week. It's brought to you by ClickArmor, the first interactive security awareness training, assessment, and engagement platform. And this is session number 32 for November 15th, 2023. And today's topic is how to improve industry collaboration for security awareness managers. And we'll be looking at where you tend to find the most help, and either internally or externally in your organization, and where you would like to get more help as a security awareness manager. So stay tuned and feel free to jump in the chat. I'm Scott Wright, the security awareness engagement guy, and I'm joined by a great panel of people who I'm excited to hear from today. I haven't talked to Fletus or Michelle in a little while. So for those of you who haven't attended before, just some housekeeping details before we start. Number one, if you haven't already, please type in the chat where you're coming from. We'd like to see what sort of international participation we get. And also use the chat at any time during the session to ask questions or respond to people's questions. We'll also have some polls and guided questions for the panel, and feel free to answer the polls and answer in the chat. While you're entering those locations, I just wanted to remind people that this session is brought to you by ClickArmor. And ClickArmor is a security awareness training platform that's unlike anything you've seen before, because it's designed based on my 15 years of working in security teams, trying to help them get employees to pay attention to security awareness training. And I learned a while ago that gamification is really the set of proven psychological drivers that are really needed to motivate employees to stay engaged and learn. So if you want to build a strong security culture, you should be using what I call deep gamification, which is what we do at ClickArmor. So what we do with these sessions is we record them, we analyze them, we discombobulate them, we reconstitute them as blog posts. And so then we generate quarterly reports called the CISO Report on Security Awareness. And those are really valuable things that gather a lot of the insights and condense things that we've talked about in these sessions. And so feel free to grab them either from the CSAF website, which I'll tell you about in a moment, or from the ClickArmor website. So that's pretty much how we do this stuff. Before I go into my sort of context discussion for letting people know what we're going to talk about today, I'm going to ask Ryan to introduce himself and the panel, and then we'll get into the meat of things.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Scott. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another session here. It's great to see everyone. On our panel today, small but mighty, we'll start with Michelle. Michelle is the founder of Risu, a consultancy that helps startups to create meaningful and simple security education strategies. She's also an expert target shopper and gets therapy from Peloton rides. Welcome, Michelle. And we also have Fletus. He is a seasoned IT and security professional, currently a security operations manager. Beyond his expertise, he finds immense joy in sharing his passion for cybersecurity with others. So thank you, Fletus, and it's good to see you again. I like what you're doing with the beard. It's looking good, my friend. Anyway, welcome to Michelle and Fletus. I'm Ryan Healey-ogden. I'm the Director of Cybersecurity Solutions over here at ClickArmor. Yeah, if you have anything you'd like me to bring to the panel, drop it in the chat. I would do my best to get it in there. So thank you again, Scott. I'll hand it back over to you.
Excellent. So yeah, as usual, I like to start by just doing a little bit of context for this discussion. When we talk about industry collaboration, some of you may have seen my post on LinkedIn this morning. It's really can be kind of lonely as a security awareness manager in an organization, because you don't necessarily get a lot of indication that what you're doing is making a difference. Sometimes you do, if you're lucky, and we'll help you maybe find ways to do that and get more feedback and more insights, and just more sense that you're giving value. But when we talk about industry collaboration, you can do it internally within your organization. As a security awareness manager, you could be reaching out to executives. There's a number of ways to do that we've talked about in different sessions. You can do surveys, questionnaires, but you can also just meet them informally and do little workshops or chats with them. Similarly, team leaders, anywhere in your organization, we've talked a lot about getting to know the unique parts of your organization by speaking with team leaders. But those are also places you can share ideas, tips, and bounce new ideas off them. Security champions, obviously the guys that are willing to help and give their own time without it being part of their formal job. You can also talk to random staff members and just have an internal dialogue with your team. So those are all the ways that, internally you can collaborate. And the things you'd be looking for would be common themes in their stories, looking for challenges that they have, and sharing your challenges. How do we get more participation, or how do we get this message across? So things like that. And you also want to be kind of gathering information about what is the budget that you are going to need, and how do you get that approved, along with a lot of other different aspects of the job. And we talked about that in our day in the life of a security awareness manager a few sessions ago. So that's the internal collaboration that I would generally see in an organization. Externally, we have some other ways that you can collaborate. You can talk to partners and suppliers. You can talk to customers. You have to be a little bit careful sometimes about the sensitivity of information if you're sharing, but you should also be, keeping an eye out again for those trends and things that people can share with you that would be helpful to understand how you can convey the information and the requirements of security awareness to your team and to the people around your organization. You can also participate in forums like the CSAF, attend conferences. There's the SANS conference that a lot of people here have gone to. We like the CSAF model because it's an ongoing thing, and we get to talk to people on a regular basis and share more timely things. So that's kind of what we're aiming to do here at the CSAF. And again, looking for similar things, tips, stories, processes, technologies, anything that you think you can improve your organization's program with. And the other things I would like to say, talking about showing leadership and outreach and volunteering, one of the best ways when people ask, how can I get into this stuff? You hear a lot of new people coming into cyber. It all depends on what you want to be doing. And if you're in security awareness, you can do a lot of outreach online. You can do posts on LinkedIn or on other social media, just sharing ideas, not necessarily sensitive things, but just showing that you're there and that you're thinking about these things. And you will start to attract people who can give you ideas as well. So those are the main areas I wanted to just sort of give people thoughts on that, perhaps you can share your own stories, your own ideas. But I also wanted to share this news. I think we announced it last session, which is the new website that we created called the Cybersecurity Awareness Forum website. Unfortunately, I couldn't get csaf.com, but we have a long, complicated one, but we usually just share it in a link. But the idea here is we have a number of different spaces within it for open collaboration. So we have this public events space where we're broadcasting now. Ryan and I and anyone else who would like to will probably be doing more live events from within the site, and they may or may not be streamed on Zoom. They can also be just consumed within the website. We can have general discussion. So any topic you want to talk about, like the story I shared earlier, I may post that on the public discussion and just put hashtags in it, and then we can start filtering things around them. We have a discrete space called, or an explicit space called phishing simulations. That's for all kinds of discussion around phishing simulations, good or bad. I like to keep things civil, though. We're not trying to bash them, but I think we want to make sure that we highlight the idea that sometimes they're abused or misused, and how can we get the best value out of them if we're going to do them, or what are the alternatives, such as the way ClickArmor does phishing simulations. We also plan to have a whole lot of other resources. We have the place where we store our CISO reports, and we're going to hopefully generate more discussion around advanced culture topics. And a number of the people that I spoke to in past sessions indicated, they like the live sessions that we're doing, but sometimes we are spending a lot of time on basics, but maybe there should be more advanced discussions. So there's a space in the website where we can talk about more advanced things, and you don't have to go back to basics every time. We're also looking for input on gamification and things that you think would be helpful for us to include in ClickArmor or in whatever gamified programs you're trying to do. And we're going to do surveys and things like that as well. So that's the overview of what's in the site. While I have a chance, before I forget, I'll just do a real quick share of the actual site. And so you can see right now, this was a couple of weeks ago. We started near Halloween. So there were some things in the chat around Halloween, but here are the sites for open collaboration, or the spaces for open collaboration, public events, public discussions. You can post anything here. I post a lot about the Shared Security podcast that I host. And there's the phishing simulations. I've put a couple of featured articles in there. And of course, the CISO reports that I mentioned. So shouldn't be too hard to navigate. And I do hope people will spread the word. And you can also invite others by just clicking on this little thing at the top. You should be able to click a link and copy it. So that's what I wanted to share. And first of all, I'd just like to open it up to the panel and have them share any general thoughts. I think you've already got an idea of what questions we're going to ask. So maybe just give us your own sort of spin on things, and then we'll get started on the questions. Michelle.
I'll let Fletus go first because I always talk a lot. So.
Yield to Fletus.
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head of just finding ways to plug in locally, regionally, and then nationally in the places that you're living. And it could just be volunteering. Be a conference volunteer, put in talks. Your talks can be lightning talks. A lot of organizations will let you do 7 to 10 minute. And so you've done a few of those, then you can get to the 30 to the hour talks. So find something you're passionate about. I gave a talk recently that I didn't think would go over as well with certain folks. I just talked about the human-centric side of our industry, just focusing back on the human. And several people in there said, you empowered me to go give the same talk. And they're just going to take 1 or 2 of my slides, turn them into a talk that they can do internally. So when you have your all hands meetings, when you have staff meetings, start with a cyber moment of some type or a security moment, and just volunteer, tell your management, hey, I'd like to give a 30-second or a 1 minute cyber topic at the beginning of our staff meeting today or our stand-up, etc.
Awesome. Great ideas. Michelle.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think external collaboration wise, I find it quite useful to talk to policy people and people who are involved in quite a lot of research, because I find that really helps. Yeah, and then if you want like internal collaboration, like Fletus has said, there's quite a few quite clever ways to do that. So we can talk about that later.
Excellent. Ryan, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think, I mean, just I would probably sit down and build out a roadmap for the year of the different kind of collaboration projects that I wanted to kind of define and achieve. I think that might be the easiest way. Start with your small, the low-hanging fruit, so to speak. As both Michelle and Fletus have said, there's a lot of free ways we can collaborate and bring everyone in as a group. Speaking, obviously leading by example, just doing, living like that, that security first kind of perspective and lifestyle will go a long way. And then externally, identify where you want to augment your organization and where you think it, the most benefit would be. Like, is it bringing in a psychologist like we've done for these forums? Is it bringing in a behavioral specialist? Is it bringing in, someone who's just better at helping you teach and learn and guide? Because again, we don't have all the skills, but we're expected to pass on these security skills and ensure that the organization is safe. So sometimes, you're going to have to sharpen the tools in your toolbox, so to speak. So I think mine would be build out a plan, and you should be able to achieve it from there.
Excellent. That's great. I'm going to go back, share my screen again, and just one last word. Just would again love people to share the link to the CSAF website, and hopefully we'll get a little more collaboration going and resources for people here. So at this point, we're going to start doing a poll. As we do, everybody can vote. So where do you wish there was better collaboration for security awareness? Inside your organization, with external colleagues? I don't know, or you can put other if you want. So while that poll is going, I'm going to start the first open question for the panel. How do the collaboration and resource needs evolve over time for security awareness managers? I think, it's fair to say that when you're new to security awareness, or it's your first year, for example, in an organization, you have certain things that you want to achieve, and it kind of goes back to Ryan's idea of the roadmap. But any other thoughts from the panel on how collaboration changes from the early time till you're in a more advanced stage?
I think maybe it's not so much that it does evolve as things mature or change, evolve within the organization even. But I think from what I see is that actually people need kind of increasing levels of support for their ideas, and to understand that actually their ideas are good. So it's like Fletus, for instance, saying, he had an idea that he wasn't sure whether the audience was going to take it that well, because it was about the human-centric side and things like that. And actually, those are all the kind of things we actually really need to be saying more than ever. So I think it's about having an ongoing level of professional support in the same way that everybody else I know in other sectors has. So marketing, accounting, even train drivers, whatever, they all have these professional associations and levels of support and unions. So I think it's about the support for your ideas a lot of the time, even more than, oh well, you're at 0.5 of this scale of whatever. It's actually giving people the confidence to do what they need to do.
Nice. Fletus.
I think the collaboration just starts with identifying what is your security culture. We talked about that. Your overall likely may be very conservative, but certain lines of businesses could be very outgoing or has the ability to be more free. So you can use memes, jokes, cartoons with those organizations or those teams, where your overall company may need to be black and white. It may just need to be a basic poster. It may need to be, so just learning what your security culture is and then shifting it. It takes years for most organizations, 3+ years. I've seen it take up to 10 years from some research I've done to change the culture of your organization. We know that leadership doesn't last that long. Most of your average CISOs or CSOs make it 18 months, maybe 36 months if you're lucky. So you've got regime changes there. So it's having that base of what is your culture and then moving forward. That's your internal piece. Your external piece is, as I opened up with, get yourself out there, talk in your community, find B-sides or local groups, chapters, go to schools. Like getting into your middle school and high school is another way to help build, because you're passing that torch to the next generation. Get them thinking, get them asking questions. As we've talked before, that's that human-centric side of what do you do when you wake up in the morning? What do you do before you go to bed each night? And then filling in the middle. Like, how do I get you to think proactively? Don't even have to be security related, just proactive thinking versus reactive thinking.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I'd have to kind of agree with both. And the way I look at it as well is, you gotta rely on that plan and your objectives. I think it's going to be very different per organization. Like some, you might come in as year one as a security awareness manager, and all your collaboration needs to be external because that's what the organization's dictating. Maybe it has a solid internal structure, but it's missing those pieces, right? So you go out, find those pieces, and bring them in. Sometimes, some of our previous panelists, like Erin Fastly, like all of her collaboration in year one is all internal, right? She's just new into her job and she's just trying to get the buy-in and the support of everyone. So it's going to be kind of, you almost become, the salesperson for your own, success, where you have to go and talk to all your department heads and all your, executives and everyone, just to say, I'm here, this is a program, this is going to be in your face all the time, and start with the relationship building, which goes a long way, right? And to Fletus's point, get outside your comfort zone, find those resources internally, externally. It's going to be a long journey, but I think it kind of comes down to scoping out your environment, understanding the current culture, and kind of adapting to fit that. And so I think security awareness managers will be wearing a lot of different hats in order to achieve these goals. You're going to have to ask some tough questions. You're going to have to chase down executives. You're going to have to get a whole bunch of no's from some external, collaborators, and it's not always going to be easy. But again, if you're in this job because you have the passion to be in this job, I think it's just own it and run with it until someone tells you to slow down.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's from my point of view, my experience is early on, I think one of the first things you need to do is make the connections with executives to just understand their vision, their preconceptions, and the things that could end up being barriers that you might end up wasting time if you don't get things lined up properly. And I think we also talked in a previous session about connecting with your marketing communications, internal communications teams, and your security operations teams, right? These are the ones that you're going to have to be learning a lot from initially, and that relationship will just continue to grow. But I think those are the first ones that you probably need to start working with. And then externally, just start monitoring, what the trends in the industry. I found LinkedIn is really good for people posting and connecting and being helpful. So I think there's a lot of good discussions you can have. There are groups certainly that you can join. And if you connect with people and just reach out to them, as long as you're being genuine, not trying to sell stuff as soon as you connect to them, people generally do want to help people in the industry. So I think with that, I'm going to move to our next poll question. Where have you found valuable sources of collaboration internally? And so we've talked a little bit about where you can get these things now, but I think overall it's an area that we want people to kind of help us understand. Where have you actually been successful in getting discussions and resources coming? So I'll let that poll run for a little while and then move to our next question. We'll skip the ad for ClickArmor. I've already kind of pitched it a bit. So we'll do this little more discussion of ClickArmor at the end. But what internal collaborations are most valuable? We just actually did discuss that, so I'm not going to even stick on that one. We have another poll question. I'll come back to that in a minute. Third question is, what sources and types of external information and connections are good for general knowledge and keeping up with trends? So I'm going to let either Fletus or Michelle speak on where they find a lot of good sources for information and where they like to collaborate.
I'm going to be quiet.
It doesn't matter. I can go or you can go.
No, carry on. You go.
So, for those who don't know, briefly mentioned, I am the security operations manager. So I have RSS feeds that populate a Slack channel 24/7 that I've advised both my internal team and other security folks to check, but I've also pushed it out to my org and let them subscribe to this channel so they can see articles that are coming in, both from the news, from vendors, etc., to help us chase down known common vulnerabilities, not the breaches that are happening, because it gets my peers as well as the rest of my organization and company talking, because they can see the news, they can read the articles, they can have conversations in their stand-ups and their chats about it. And when I come knocking, they've seen the article or have the ability to go read the same article I'm reading to say, hey, we're vulnerable to this. I'm going to open their respective ticket, or we need to remediate this. They're aware of it because they can be following it. And it's also encouraging too, because of different time zones. I'll get a message, hey, have you seen this? And it's proactiveness of my employees and my colleagues, my peers saying, I read this. I want to know what we're doing about this, or here's what I think we can do. So you're getting proactive sources. And then you've already mentioned LinkedIn is great, Twitter/X, Discord channels, external Slack channels, all of these communities. You just build a community that you're kicking off. Like, those are great places. And then just connecting, like having a listserv, old term, but distribution list that you can subscribe to, where you can just share ideas with folks. Like having common places to share ideas across those platforms, even if it's via email.
Right. Michelle.
I tend to, like I said, I tend to look at a lot of research, and a lot of the people, I find a lot more of the people that I will speak to and get support from and collaborate with are the ones doing actual university style research, because I find that then helps me collaborate internally, because I don't find it difficult to get the relationships built internally. I find that quite easy. I'm quite lucky in that respect, but that's because despite the fact that I talk a lot, I do listen. And I think that's the key to it. You can build relationships just by listening and also by helping people, because people don't always think that, they don't remember that they have to pour in as well as, be poured into, pour out as well as be poured into. But that's where I get a lot of my support, because I'm quite unusual in this sector, in that I have particularly I have always held these particularly strong views on, not that I want to be adversarial with people, I know what doesn't work, and I'm not afraid to kind of say that. And I find that can be quite upsetting for people. So I tend to find, not upsetting in the sense that they cry, but I just mean that that for me, that's always been the collaboration side of things that's been missing, even in cybersecurity generally, because people are very, very used to doing things a certain way. And so when you talk about collaboration internally, that can be where you get your roadblocks, and you need the support externally to go to people. And I'm really lucky I've got that network, but that is something that's taken me a long time to develop, because actually, if you go outside and you say, well, they want me to just do this, and I don't think it's the right thing to do, you know, I could say that to maybe 50 security awareness people, and they probably 3/4 of them would go, but why not? But I think that's a great idea. And I'd be like, but I know that's not the right thing. I've seen it go wrong. So you've got to find your group who will support you.
I can imagine people saying, Michelle told me I was stupid.
Oh no, I would never tell something. Yeah, I would never, and I don't want to be adversarial with it. You know, if my way of doing things is it's not the only way, right? But I've been in this long enough to kind of know. And I also I have a very strong ethical background, so I will simply not do. I don't want to do certain things, and I won't, because I don't want to see employment lawyers coming for me later on. My name's not going to be on that lawsuit. I can guarantee to you. So
yeah, that's a really good point. Your point about, you know, whether you follow the crowd or do your own thing, you know, there's that percentage of people that will agree with you and that won't. And you really have to, that's why you have to kind of internally figure out what the culture is and what it can withstand and how you can change things without disrupting or causing a lot of damage, right? And so it is, as I posted in LinkedIn, you know, you have different workflows, you have different policies, you have different terminologies, you have different risks. All of those things have to be factored in when you're trying to figure out how to communicate with people and collaborate with them. So, Ryan, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's both. I mean, Fletus and Michelle covered all the typical resources. You know, there's you know, Fletus, obviously, I would love to see his RSS feeds and the amount of information that, as you know, in his position, that he has to intake and then discern what is critical and what isn't, right? I mean, that's another thing. There's going to be more information out there than we have the ability to act on. You know, and I think finding people that either complement your approach to security awareness or contradict your approach to security awareness would be you know, a key resource as I was building out a plan, because I want to make sure that I am seeing it from all aspects and angles. I don't want to go in, you know, just with one approach that may not be applicable to the organization that I'm working with. So again, it's understanding that culture and then finding the right tools and resources. You know, again, it's not a once, you know, kind of, there isn't one solution for everyone's security problems. And I think that's what my biggest takeaway would be. And so it's finding the right collaboration for the right problem at the right time. It's a bit of a tricky, I guess, recipe, but that's how I would look at it.
Yeah, you can actually waste a lot of time arguing with people on LinkedIn or Twitter about the wrong things. Like, it just doesn't matter because you know your organization best, or you should.
Yeah,
so,
and we're always like, we always have to keep learning, right? So it's finding those alternative you know, thought processes and different ways to approach situations, because that outcome might be the most beneficial for your organization, and to then Fletus's position, to your people, right? Because if we're going to make this as a human-centric approach, we have to remember that every human in our organization is a little different, and they're all going to take in information differently and process it and handle it differently.
Excellent. So I've just shared the last poll question, which is, where have you found the most valuable resources of collaboration internally and externally? A bunch of options here: LinkedIn, Twitter, local network colleagues, global network colleagues, cybersecurity awareness forum, hopefully at some point, and other ideas that you might have. Just enter external and put your comment in there. So I'll let that poll run for a little bit. And I guess what I'll do is just jump to the end. I think one of the things that I like to do here is look at where we might have added value for people. So for executives, you know, what are the things that we've covered today that could be helpful for executives? Maybe they're hiring a security awareness manager. Maybe they're trying to figure out what the heck's wrong with their security awareness manager. What kinds of things could we say today, based on our discussion of collaboration, that could be helpful to executives at this point?
I want to add back into it. I think Ryan covered it, and so did Michelle a little bit, is you're going to have to use certain let's keep the recipe going on. Certain people want more salt. So there's ways to season things differently than others. Some people are going to want more spice. So you have to understand when you're talking with people how it's interpreted. Do they see it as salt that's preserving something, or do they see it as salt that's changing the taste? Do they see spice as an enhancement to flavor, or is it a contradiction? Because you can use salt and spicing in two separate ways depending on your audience. So just to keep that recipe alive, you have to understand your audience. And the only way to understand your audience is to ask them questions. And you get and listen to them, not just push information to them, but actually absorb information. For those who followed me for any length of time, I've gotten for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, a food for thought question. I started doing that internally, and then I decided let's do that externally. You'll notice I rarely engage back with someone in that thread. If you want, we'll talk about it in a DM. And the reason I don't engage in the thread is because I don't know your industry. A retail person is going to come at it differently than a utility or an education. So I don't want to, we talked about earlier, Fletus said this, so now it's golden. Or Ryan said this, because it's not going to apply. And if you're a global company, you're going to have a different mindset than if you are based in a single state or a single city. So like, that's how you have to like massage it, and you put it into a funnel, and then you push information as it's appropriate. You have to localize it. You have to localize your content, and you have to localize your facts, because I saw someone here put, you can't argue, it's just telling facts. A fact to you may be factual, but it could be very offensive in the way it's presented if you don't localize it. And nothing wrong with presenting facts. It's really the tact behind sharing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Any other insights I'd like to share?
I also think one of the key things, a really, really critical thing in this, particularly in this area, and that I notice in cybersecurity generally, having come from education and worked with a lot of other sectors, is there's not very much honesty and transparency in what we talk about. And I don't mean that people are liars, don't get me twisted. But I think because we tend to be very output focused, we don't talk about outcomes, and we're not honest about those. And so it makes everybody feel like they should be doing more. And then I don't find the conversations super, super honest and super, super transparent, if there even are conversations. And I think people can be very kind of, it's almost like, if you go on LinkedIn, I mean, Twitter, I try and avoid it now, but you don't really have these professional conversations, which is why that are kind of out loud, which is why I tend to stay in my little group where we're honest about the challenges. Because if you, not to be offensive, but if you look at, say, SANS or something else, it's mostly output focused. It isn't actually super helpful, I don't think. And people aren't really, really being that. I know there are some SANS groups locally and stuff, and they tend to, depending on how honest people are being at the time, it's great. But even then, that's still under an umbrella of, well, we've got to still pretend, I think, a little bit. I'd love to see us be a little bit more open and honest. And I think the accountability and regulation that's coming for this sector is going to help. But I do think that's where we need to collaborate more and be honest, instead of it being, yeah, everything's great and I'm doing this amazing thing and I've got this security culture and it's amazing. Actually, it's not. Just say it's not. Just say it's hard. Just say you're exhausted. Just say nobody will listen to you and they want you to do posters all the time, and you're sick of posters, you're sick of newsletters, and you're sick of phishing sims. And let's start being a bit more honest. And then we'll get somewhere, because at the moment we're not being honest. And that's what I want from collaboration. I want people to give themselves permission and to be supported in that by people, because I've always had unions and professional associations where people have held me accountable and gone, Michelle, that ain't a good idea, but also have gone, yeah, do it. So I just want to see more people doing stuff, because I'm so sick of people coming in and becoming jaded and scared of not being able to say what they really think, because you're not allowed to be honest in this sector at the moment, and we need to be, because look at SolarWinds. Not going to make any comment about that legally. I'm just saying maybe we need to be a bit more honest and draw our lines in the sand about what we're prepared to do, and have those open conversations about how hard it is, because this sector's tough.
Yeah, I was thinking of something, and I was going to run it by you guys. Sorry, I should have ran it right before this. But like, we do tabletops for incident response. Have we ever thought about running a tabletop light for a security awareness program? Like
Yeah.
bring in the program and challenge the maturity of it through a tabletop. Instead of bringing your incident response plan in, bring in your security awareness program. Like bring
that.
the program to the table and challenge the program during the tabletop. Are you effectively tackling your risk register? Are you factually presenting regulatory and compliance data to your company? Are you just sending fluff? Are you just a marketing person? Like challenge the security
my
awareness
entire business model, Fletus. So,
but I'm just saying, like companies, like we run tabletops for your incident response plans, like to test your incident response plan. Could we not run something tabletop-ish to challenge your security awareness program?
Yeah, imagine you run a phishing simulation and things go bad, right? So how does the PR department react?
But even before that, why are you running your phishing sim? I know I'm not going to argue about it because I know, I'm not here to argue about whether we should do them, but that's my whole point. I mean, that's what I do, is go into organizations and talk to people, even informally, and go, why are you doing, what's your outcomes? What are your outcomes? So it's like, that is basically it. Because if you cannot tell me why you were doing something and what you intend to get out of it, and that has to be more than we want to see the click rate, or we just want them to use MFA. It's got to be more than that. And I think that's the problem, that we actually in security, I hate awareness as well as a word, but like in security education, cyber risk, culture, whatever, we don't talk about outcomes. So a tabletop will be really challenging for more than 90% of the people I know doing this, not because they're bad at their jobs, but because actually they're hamstrung because the organization thinks that they should just be doing phishing sims and posters and newsletters, which is broadly a lot of what people are allowed to do, maybe with an escape room flung in for a little bit of flavor, a little bit of spice. And then outside of it, they can't get any support, because if you say, I don't think people are the weakest link, try it on LinkedIn. I don't think people are the weakest link. I think we should talk to people. I think we should listen to people. I had people say to me on LinkedIn the other day, I should be more stoic, because I said we shouldn't be using war language. Like, I know it's LinkedIn, it doesn't matter. But you look at the job titles of the people. It's not just some reply guy. It's not just Billy6470 with his hat on. It's like, it's so-and-so CISO, a big org. And I'm like, gee, so you work with somebody. I wonder what you're like to work with, So that really.
Awesome. Love it.
Give me strength.
Great thoughts. So I'm going to start by or finish up by wrapping up the polls and going into what we discovered. So in the first poll, it was, where do you wish there was better collaboration in security awareness? And inside your organization was 5 out of 12, or 42%. Externally, 50%. I don't know, 17%, and other. So then it was, where have you found valuable sources of collaboration internally? So highest one was your own management chain. 7 out of 10, or 70% of people said that's where they get the most value. Followed by security champions, other team leaders, security champions, and executives. So some really interesting thoughts there. And then in the third one, where have you found the most value externally? LinkedIn, Twitter, local, etc. So LinkedIn was by far the biggest. 73% of people said they get good value from LinkedIn. And thankfully, Cybersecurity Awareness Forum coming up in second place. we want to bring that up closer to LinkedIn. Hopefully, we'll get more folks in there and sharing ideas and helping out others. So really good feedback. Thanks very much, everybody, for participating in the poll. And what we'll do is we'll announce next session, November 29th. Maybe some people here will come back for it. Helping vulnerable populations with cybersecurity challenges. So we'll look at how security awareness managers can look beyond just the generic employees' needs. Every employee is connected to a family of people who have exposure to various different types of people that could have risks, and want to, I think, just sort of share the idea that the more we can help people with their home lives, the more happy and productive they'll be at work. So it's not directly a security issue for the company, but I think it could really help the security culture.
And it goes a long way in collaboration, because this is where you're going to learn new aspects and new perspectives and everything else. If you go and take the time to talk to a group of seniors or a group of children or the indigenous or just, any marginalized communities, you're going to understand and learn things that you may never have seen that you can bring back to your teams and your organizations to help your people. So
Mhm.
I'm really excited about it. It's so hopefully you all can make it and spread the word, please and thank you.
Yeah, I think I was sharing the wrong screen there. Sorry about that. But
Oh, we saw your beautifully clean desktop with
yes.
1,000 icons on your taskbar.
Yeah, my nice little taskbar. Yeah, so the 29th, session number 33. So it's becoming a real trend, having these things every 2 weeks. I'll do one last roundtable. Anybody have open discussion items from the chat or anything, let me know. Fletus?
Those who've seen me present, I'm just going to leave something out there. It's like, what should you do if you get locked out of your house? Talk to the lock, because communication is key. I just want to leave that communication is how we collaborate. It's my dad joke of the afternoon.
It's your dad jokes. That's what we need. We need a dad joke every session now. You're on the hook for that.
I know I want to say that's terrible, but I feel I think that would sound mean.
No, it's fine. I open with that too often.
I liked it.
It's a dedicated slide in most of my decks, but I mean that, like, communication is your key. Like, we have to understand how we're communicating, what your generations are, and how you get to communicate, because we've talked about it in other sessions. Some people want an email. Some people want a Slack or team message. Some people want you to walk to their desk. Some people want you to physically show up, like go somewhere with them, go to lunch, go to dinner, go to an event with them. Like, it just takes building a rapport, and it starts with communication. So figure out the right communication strategy for your organization. Each of you as individual contributors on this call, even if you're not the security awareness manager, you have the ability to communicate security. You have that authority. You have that authorization, even if your company doesn't tap you, because security is not your job. It's what you do.
Absolutely.
I just happen to have security in my title.
Yeah, I would say if you understand your people and you understand your organization, and that comes through communication and learning and listening, which is something that maybe the community doesn't do a lot of, then I think your collaboration will come almost naturally. Like it will just kind of like start to take care of itself if you understand the situation you're in. If you're trying to solve a problem that you don't know, you're never really truly going to be able to solve that problem.
Awesome. Well, I think that pretty much wraps up our session today. Really appreciate everybody joining us. I'm just going to flip my screen back to the ad for ClickArmor so that people know who paid for this. But thanks everybody for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time in 2 weeks.